Should probably be okay then.
So then in terms of the assessment part, the candidate prepares, presents, and defends a plan for developing a policy that is consistent with the identified model of leadership. That makes sense? Now, what I'm thinking of for here is I don't think we can get bogged down on you know, the precise language that's going to go in here. I can do that, but this is where it would end up with. So what I want from you is the input for what should be the content, and then I'll translate it into this form. And my plan is that then we're going to have a document that basically is going to have the course, I shouldn't use that word, it's going to have the essential stuff that would go into the syllabus development. And this was then turned over to somebody else who's going to have to put it through the, you know, governance process. But we'll have provided the input of what goes into the sausage. The sausage coming out on this end, we decide what goes into the sausage. Best metaphor I can. Well, I did say it the last time that it's putting it through the meat grinders. Okay?
Yeah, let me see what you got there. Tell me how you develop the other two parts.
Okay, yeah, good. So then I said, all right, now we said all of these things should be sort of filtered through these ideas: equity, diversity, inclusivity, and global perspective. And then it basically is just a statement which says the policy development procedures systematically seek input from diverse populations and perspectives. And in fact, when I did a Google search on policy development, some of the designs for policy, you know, strongly emphasize the importance of seeking out diverse perspectives in the community, identify marginalized populations that might not, you know, ordinarily contribute, you know, how you go about seeking their input, understanding where they're coming from, and then make sure that that what you're doing with your plan for seeking input is sensitive to that people are coming from different places, they have different values, orientations, and so forth. You need to be responsive to that as you're developing the policy. So you're not just imposing it or having it reflect sort of elite perspectives. So that's how you would address this. And then what I did is I just took two areas of standards. I took PI 34, which is on blue sheet. And those are the standards for administrators in Wisconsin. And I said, in coming up with this, I think standards 4, 6, and 7 are being addressed. Okay? And then I took the document that Carol and Heidi facilitated, and for the nonprofits, and identified some of the phrases and language that they have in their document, just as an example. And I could have done the same thing with, you know, the athletic sports management area. Now, in terms of this, when we came up with this, I think we were attuned to the fact that this has to be connected to the standards and accrediting that's out there for different organizations. After doing this, it occurs to me that we may not be able to do this very well at this point. For example, the personnel, the student services personnel area, I mean, there's a huge document for their accreditation. So the accreditation process and standards are quite different in terms of their structure. Trying to juggle all of that, I think, might be a little bit too much. But I put this in here to give an example of how ultimately this is going to play out. And I don't know that we're going to be able to sort it through today. But what I did do is to make 3 examples that we might reference just to sort of keep us connected to that, and that is the Wisconsin Licensure Standards for Administrators, this Commission on Sports Management and Accreditation. And as I understand it, there were several organizations in this field that are converging to develop this set of standards.
It's just, it hasn't gotten anywhere yet.
It's in process.
It's in process, right? And I think there's only actually 2 schools, I think, that I wrote that have actually had this accreditation.
Liberty University is one,
Yeah.
and Lynchburg and
Flagler or something like that. Very smaller schools, yeah, very small.
So that's an example of how different and the different professional strands are in terms of where they are with accreditation and standards. And it turns out I think this is going to be much more daunting than I originally
Could you clarify, you explained this last time, but just not knowing your process of going through the meat grinder, when this goes to the next committee, and you said that somebody is going to refine this, does that happen before or after something's approved?
Yeah, it's going to have to be before, because the courses would need to be developed. That would be part of the program that will go forward.
And there's sort of multiple stages. I don't have this sorted through it. In fact, I'm meeting with Gail on Thursday to help clarify a number of different things. But there's the piece that is the curriculum development piece, that is coming up with the course syllabi for the core, okay? And for discussion purposes, we've said that's probably going to be like 15 credits. Okay, so there's going to have to be the syllabi developed for those, and then that's going to have to go through the governance process. Separate from that is a proposal to develop a program, a full master's program.
That was my question.
And that
What
would
came
go
first,
forward.
the chicken?
And then there's a third piece, which is the really daunting piece, is if we do have all these different tracks down the road, where we would want to consider at least having those programs accredited. That is, somebody from the outside gives their approval saying, you've met our accrediting standards nationally or regionally or whatever it is for this program. And that's where the range of accreditation standards and procedures are, very different. Like the document that you sent is really a set of guidelines and suggestions for what a good program entails, but it's not an accrediting agency for nonprofits. And from what I can tell, such does not exist, or at least up to this point we haven't identified, which is very different from the student personnel area, which very definitely has accreditation standards, or the administrative licensure standards that K-12 schools have. So we need to have this in mind, but we're not going to sort that out here, at least not now. Okay, so that's the overview. So with that, I can find my overhead for, oh, here it is. This piece, now just to back up a little bit, these major categories are ones that I came up with. What I did basically was, several meetings back, I tried to give a little bit more structure to this, and I took the pieces that had been talked about here and tried to categorize them around some major concepts, I guess. So we've never really, we haven't addressed these per se. We haven't addressed the structure.